Hello, and welcome to this series of videos on the TI-30XS calculator. My name is Becky McGuffin, and I'm a math instructor with the Heartland Adult Education Consortium. The goal of this series of videos is to teach you how to get the maximum benefit out of your calculator on test day. When I tutor students, I always begin by asking them how comfortable they are with the calculator. And they almost always reply, "Oh yes, Miss Becky, I know how to use the calculator." But as I work with them, I find they really only knew how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I often hear, "I didn't know the calculator would do that," after I show them one of the calculator functions. In this series, we'll go over exponent buttons, scientific notation, fractions, percents, even the store and variable buttons that you'll be able to use for more challenging algebra problems like those you'll find on the GED. If possible, I suggest you have one of the calculators in your hand as we go through these videos. That will allow you to practice each of the keystrokes as we go through different examples. This journey may be long, but I promise it will be rewarding and you will learn something about your calculator before we finish. So let's begin. One of the things that you will have to do on the GED is graph lines and determine an equation for a line or determine if a point is on a line. And there is a button on your calculator that can be very useful when you are doing any of those things that have to do with graphing a line or determining an equation for a line. And so I want to show you the table button. So one of the things that you will need to study and explore is the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. And this is something that is on the formula sheet. But it is written as y equals mx plus b. And it is known as slope-intercept form of the graph. And the m in front always stands for slope, and the b stands for the y-intercept, where the line will cross the y-axis. Now, I'm not going to show you how to graph using this. I'm going to show you the table button on your calculator and how it can be very helpful. But the table button is only useful if the equation is in this form. If I have an equation y equals 2x plus 4, that's in slope-intercept form, y equals. If it's in y equals, think y equals table. I can use my table button for that question. If it's not in y equals format, if it says 2x plus 3y equals 12, that's not in this format, this y equals mx plus b slope-intercept format. So I'm not going to be able to use my table button with the equation written like this. So here's what your table button will do. So your table button is going to take an equation. You can enter an equation as long as it's in that y equals mx plus b form. You can enter it in the calculator and it will give you a table of values that make that equation true. So here's how it works. Here's the table button. It says table. And if you hit the table button, we're going to clear anything that happens to be there. And I have y equals. Beside that y equals, we want to type, let's do the one that I have here, 2x plus 4. So I'm going to type 2, the variable x, plus 4. And hit enter, and I like leaving my start value at 0. You can change it to whatever you want it to be, but I try to stick with 0 most of the time. We're going to scroll all the way down to OK. Just hit enter, 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 enter till you get to OK. And what it does is it gives me a table of values, x's and y's, that would be on the line. So the point 0, 4 is on the line. The 0.16 is on the line. The 0.28. And that means if I put 0 in for x, 2 times 0 plus 4, it gives me a value of 4 for y. And it doesn't, I'm not just limited to these 3 points. I can scroll down as far as I need to. and I can scroll up to my negative numbers as much as I need to. So whatever number you're looking for, after we do some examples, I think you'll see how this can be very useful to you. So just remember, if it is in y equals mx plus b form, y equals table. So let's look at a couple of examples here where I have an equation, y equals mx plus b. The slope would be 1, the y-intercept would be 2. But that is in that y equals mx plus b form. So we're going to hit my table button, and I'm just going to type in x plus 2. X plus 2. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to put my start value back to 0. I could put it to 2 because that's the first number on my chart that I'm actually going to fill out. But we'll leave it at 0, keep hitting enter till I get down to OK. And what it gives me is a table of values that will make this equation true. I need to know when x is 2, what's y. So I'm going to scroll down here. There, when x is 2, y is 4. I'm going to scroll down one more. When x is 3, y is 5. Scroll down one more. When x is 4, y is 6. And scroll down one more. When x is 5, y is 7. And what we're doing, all we're doing in this case is putting 2 in for x. 2 plus 2 gives me 4. They're like little input-output charts. 3, put 3 in. 3 plus 2 gives me 5. 4, put 4 in. 4 plus 2 gives me 6. 5, put 5 in. 5 plus 2 gives me 7. And on this simple one, you might not need to use your table button, but we're going to also use this table to help me graph the points. You can take a graph, which we'll do this in a minute, and I can put these points on this graph, over 2, up 4, and put those points on there and connect the dots to make a line and see what the line looks like. Let's look at another one. So I have y equals negative 3x. It's in y equals mx plus b form. There's no b. If there's no number over here, then that usually means, well, it always means it's actually starting at 0. It starts and crosses at the origin when there's no plus or minus number over here. But it's in y equals mx plus b form. We're going to hit our table. I'm going to clear the equation that's already there, and I'm going to put in negative 3x. Here's my negative key, 3x. I want to hit enter, and I've got it set at 3. I'm actually going to change it to this start value of negative 1. Negative 1. I'm going to hit enter till I get down to OK. Hit enter again. And when x is negative 1, y is 3. When x is 0, y is 0. When x is 2, which is the next one on my list, I have to scroll down. 2, y is negative 6. And when it's 3, it is negative 9. These tables, they're like XY points. Negative 1, 3. 0, 0. 2, negative 6. That if I plot those points on a graph, I'll be able to connect the dots and see what the line looks like, what the equation, what the graph of the line looks like for this equation. Let's do at least one more. Actually, we'll go ahead and do 2 more. This is y equals 2x. So I'm going to hit my table button, and I want to change my equation to say y equals 2x. I'm going to hit enter. My start value, I want negative 1 because that's the first number on my chart, negative 1. Keep hitting enter till I get down to OK, and then I can scroll through this table and put in the numbers that I need to know. When x is negative 1, y is negative 2. When x is 0, y is 0. When x is 1, y is 2. And now I can scroll down and see when x is 2, y is 4. And there's my list of points that I can use to graph the line. Doesn't matter if I have whole numbers in front of x or fractions, positive or negative numbers, as long as it's in y equals mx plus b form or y equals table, I can use my table button to fill in a table to get a list of points that we can use to graph. So let's hit our table button and clear. 4/3 x, since that's a fraction, we have to hit our fraction first. 4 on top, 3 on the bottom, x minus 2. When I hit enter, I'm going to set my start at -3 because that's the first value on my chart, -3. I'm going to scroll down, enter, 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 till I get down to OK. Enter one more time. When x is -3, y is -6. Now, I don't need to know -2 or -1. Kind of skip those. These are fractions because it doesn't always come out to be an even number, especially when you have a fraction for the slope in front of the x. We'll scroll down. 0. When x is 0, y is -2. Scroll down. When x is 3, y is 2. And one more. When x is 6, y is 6. And then I could use that to graph the line. And that's what we'll be doing in the next view is we'll be taking an equation in slope-intercept form. We'll be using the table button to get a list of points, and then we'll put those points on the graph and sketch the graph. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to take these equations, we're going to enter them using our table button and get a list of values, a list of points, and then we're going to put them on the graph and sketch the graph. So in my first one, we always want to stop and think y equals, is it in that y equals mx plus b form? Remember, y equals, I can use my table button. So y equals x plus 3. That is, my slope in front of the x is a 1. When there's no number there, it's a 1. There's my y-intercept. So we're going to hit our table button, and if there's anything there, we'll hit clear, and I want to type x plus 3. X plus 3. Hit enter. I'm going to put my start value at 0 because that's going to give me whatever the y-intercept is there. But I'm going to scroll down, enter, 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 and now I have a list of points. So the point 0 for x and 3 for y. 0, 3. So we're going to put that on our graph. 0 on the x and 3 on the y is there. Okay. The next point I have 1, 4. 1 is an x, 4 is a y. Over 1, up 4. The next one, 2, 5. Over 2, up 5. Okay, and if I wanted to, I could even go up to some of these other ones. -1, 2. -1, 2. I can go up another one. -2, 1. But what you should see after you put several points on the graph is that you have a straight line with the equation y equals x plus 3. That's what the line would look like. So sometimes if you're given on the GED, if they give you an equation and they give you 4 graphs and say which graph represents that equation, you can use your table button to see and sketch a graph to see which one matches it. Let's do another one. I have 6/5 x minus 5. First thing to look for, is it in y equals that format? Yes, it is. So we're going to hit our table button and clear the previous equation. 6/5 x. So I'm going to hit my fraction button, 6 on top, 5 on the bottom, x minus 5. And I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to put my start back at 0, and I'm going to keep hitting enter until I get down to OK. Now, because 6/5 is a fraction, some of my points are going to be fractions. But when I'm putting points on the graph, I'm going to try to stick to the ones that have whole numbers. So if I look at this first one, when x is 0, y is -5. 0, -5. We're going to start there. And instead of trying to figure out exactly where I'd have to estimate 19/5 to be, we're going to look for ones that have a whole number x and a whole number y. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit more, and oh, there's one, 5, 1. If I go over 5 on my x and up 1 on my y, I get another point. I could go and find some more points, but what I'm going to find, there's 10, 7. I don't have 10 blocks on my graph to plot those points. These are the only 2 points that are going to be on here. But if you have 2 points, that's all you need to really make a line. So there is what that equation would look like. It has a y-intercept of -5 and a slope of 6/5, up 6 and over 5. Okay, one more, -4x plus 3. It's in y equals format. We'll hit our table button and clear the previous equation. I want -4x, -4x plus 3. We'll hit enter. I'm going to put my start back at 0. Enter, 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 all the way down to OK. And I have points 0, 3, 0, 3, 1, -1, 2, -5. And now I can connect my points, draw my line, and sketch the graph to see what the line is going to look like. The table button can be helpful for you as long as it's in that y equals mx plus b form. Remember, if it's in y equals, you can use your table button. And there's one other way that we're going to use the table button, and that's to determine if a point is on a line. One last way we can use our table button is to determine if a point is on a line, or to determine what an equation is that goes through 2 points. And just remember, you can only do this if the equations are in y equals mx plus b form. So here are some examples. If I have this question that asks which of the following points is on the line, and here's the equation of the line. As long as it's in this y equals table form, I can use my table button. And so what we can do, we can hit our table button, enter this equation, and see which of these 4 points is on that table that is generated. So there's my table. We're going to hit clear, and I'm going to type in -2x, -2x plus 3. We'll hit enter. I can leave my start at anything I want, but I can start it at 0 and go down to OK, enter. And I want to look and see which of these points is on here. So 0, 2. When x is 0, y is 3. That one's not the right answer. When x is -2, let's scroll up. -2, 7. -2, 7. That's going to be my right answer. Let's look at these others just to be sure. 2, 0. I can scroll down and see when x is 2, y is -1. That's not on the line. And 5, 7. Scroll down. 5, -7. Not 5, 7. That's the right answer. There are other ways to do this question, but this is a very simple way. If it's in y equals form, you can hit your table button and just check to see which of the points is on the line. Let's do another one. This one's a little different. We have 2 points, and we're trying to write the equation. It's a very complicated process. You have to find the slope and then substitute a point in, but we can simply use the table button as long as our answer choices are in this y equals format. So we're going to hit clear. I'm going to hit my table button, and I want to enter answer choice A. And then I'm going to look and see if these 2 points are on the table that's created. So table and clear, and I want 1/3 x. So I'm going to hit my fraction button, 1 on top, 3 on the bottom, x minus 3. I want to hit enter. I'm going to start at -2 because that's one of the points I'm really curious about. -2, and hit enter till I get down to OK. And I have -2. I don't have -4. I have -11/3. This will not be the right answer because this point isn't listed on that table. Let's go to answer choice B. Table, clear. We're going to put 3x minus 2. 3x minus 2. Hit enter. Once again, I want to know what -2, what the point is, the y value for that point, so I'm going to leave that as my start value. Hit enter, down to OK. -2, -8, not -4. B can't be right. Let's go to answer choice C. We'll hit our table button. Now instead of 3x minus 2, I have 3x plus 2. I don't have to delete the whole thing. I can just go over here and change that minus to a plus. Hit enter. Leave my start value at -2. Scroll down to OK. And I have -2, -4. Well, that's good. It's on there. But that's not enough. We also have to look and make sure 1, 5 is also on there. So I'm going to scroll down, and there 1, 5 is also there. This one was on that line, and this one was on that line. So that is my answer. As long as they're in y equals mx plus b format, you can type them in a table and check to see if the points are on there. Now, one other example, this next one asks us to write the equation again, but it says, what is the equation of the line with the slope of -4 that passes through this point 1, 2? So once you've studied slope a little bit and get better at graphing lines, they tell me the slope is -4. If you're familiar with y equals mx plus b form and you know -4 is my slope, that means it's my m. That means -4 has to go in that hole right there. It's got to be one of these two choices. This one has a +4 slope, and this one has a +4 slope. So I don't even have to check those two answers. I can eliminate them without doing any work. Now we're going to type in answer choice A, -4x plus 2. Delete. -4x plus 2. I hit enter. I want my start value of 1 because I want to see if the point 1, 2 is on the line. So I'm going to make 1 my start value, and I'm going to scroll down. Oh, that still says -1. Back. Delete. There's 1, and I'm going to scroll down to OK. 1, -2. Well, I'm looking for 1, +2. That's not the right answer. I sure hope B works. So we'll hit our table button. I want -4x, and instead of +2, I want +6. I'm going to scroll down, enter, and I have 1, 2. 1, 2. That is going to be our answer. So whenever they're in y equals mx plus b format, you can use your table and it'll give you a list of points and you can check and see which ones work in that equation. But sometimes the equation they give you is not in y equals mx plus b form. And if that's the case, we can't use the table button unless we rearrange the formula. But there is another little shortcut. So let's look at that. What about a question that says, is the point 2, 4 on the line 3x plus 2y equals 12? Well, it's not in my y equals plus b form, so I can't use my table button. But here's another strategy. Remember, in this point, that's your x and that's your y. So we're going to take those x and y values and put them in this equation. And you can do this with a calculator, without a calculator, but we're going to use our store button just because I'm a big fan of the calculator, and I think you will be too if you get used to it. So we're going to store 2 for x, 2 for x, 2 store x, and we're going to store 4 for y. 4 store once for x, twice for y. And now I'm going to type in this equation 3x plus 2y, 3x plus 2y, and I got 14. I didn't get 12, so I can say no, that point is not on the line because I didn't get 12 when I put this point in this equation. If it's in y equals mx plus b form, you can use your table. If not, you may have to store the x and store the y. or substitute those in the equations if you're better at that. Let's look at a couple more examples. Here's one more. Which of the following lines will pass through the point 3, 2? So once again, my answer choices are not in y equals mx plus b form. So I can't use the table button, but I can store 3 for x and 2 for y. That's my x, that's my y. And once I have stored those, I can type them in these equations pretty quickly to see which one works. So 3 store x, 2 store once for x, twice for y. I can now type in negative 3x plus 2, once for x, twice for y. I got negative 5. Since I didn't get 0, A is not right. Now we'll go on to answer choice B. 2x plus 3, once for x, twice for y. Hit enter. I got 12. Nope, I need 3. Not right. And I know it seems like it takes a while to do this, but once you get good at your calculator, calculator fluent, you can move through them pretty quickly. Negative 2x plus 3y, 0. There's my right answer. And I don't need to check D because there's only going to be one that works. Okay, so you can store the x, store the y. And the last example I want to show you is something called a system of equations. It's just like what we just did, except a system of equations is where we have two equations and we're trying to figure out, if I graph both lines, what's the point where they cross. And so what we have to do in this case is actually make sure, test these points in both equations. So we're going to use the x and the y, okay, 2 for x, 6 for y, and put them in my equation and see which one works in both equations. So 2 store x, 6 store y, and I want to do x plus y. Well, pretty much I know that's 8. It's not 4. A is not the right answer. So let's check this other one. 6, negative 2. 6 store x, negative 2 store y. Okay, now we're going to type in our equation again, x plus y, and I got 4. Okay, so that's a possibility. It worked in one equation. Does it work in the other one? 2x minus 3y. Did I get 18? I did. That equation, that point right there, works in both of those two equations, so it is the point where it would actually cross the line, where the two lines would cross, would be that point right there. You could check the other ones to see if they work. This one, let's see if I do negative 2 store x and 6 store y. I think it's going to work in x plus y. I got 4, but does it work in this other one? 2x minus 3y is negative 22. No, it doesn't work. And this other one won't either. So you just have to check and see which point works in both equations, and then that will be the answer. But if it's not in y equals mx plus b form, you can't use your table button, but you can store your x and store your y and do a little guess and check until you find the one that works in both equations. Now it's time to practice. I encourage you to get to know your calculator, get very comfortable with it, and learn as many tips and tricks as you can for your calculator to help you on test day.